I'd like to start our workshop, with just an explanation of what happens when we breathe. And as you know, there is this axiom, this central tenet that we have of breathing, which is everything is based on the exhalation. The inhalation is a reflex. So it's worthwhile, I think, just to sit with that for a second. And what does that mean to you? I mean, the inhalation is a reflex. Everything is based on the exhale. What happens when we're born? Well, the very thing that happens when we're born is we exhale, right? We all have those wonderful images of the doctor sort of hitting the bottom of the baby, and there comes out this huge cry, and that sets breathing in motion. This brilliant, involuntary, rhythmic breath. Exhalation, inhalation, exhalation, inhalation. And what about this amazing cry of the baby? Have you ever heard anything so loud? Tiny little baby. And how about the length? Hours. Hours of crying. Ever stopping to need to take a breath? Doesn't seem so, does it? Right? But why is it so incredible? And why is it just filled with urgency? It's because that coordination, that baby's coordination, is so perfectly in sync that that sound is just huge. And as I just said, filled with need, filled with urgency. Now that exquisite timing we begin to lose as we go on through life. And that's what this class is about, is to begin to regain this quality of coordination in breathing. I have it's interesting to ask people what they know about breathing, and usually you hear we inhale, we inhale oxygen, we exhale carbon dioxide. And sometimes I like, when I give workshops to musicians, especially wind instrumentalists, I say, well, what do you know about breathing? Or to singers. And they say, well, I try to take a diaphragmatic breath, to which I say, and where is the diaphragm? And they usually point someplace here. Or I just had a new student, and I asked her about breathing, and she said, well, my last teacher told me I'm to take a breath with my belly. So there's lots of information out there about breathing. But the diaphragm, yes, it is sort of central in our body, but it's not really here. The diaphragm cuts us in half, top to bottom. Above the diaphragm is our heart and our lungs, and below are the abdominal organs. So and it is huge. It is absolutely huge. So let's take just a look at your first graphic here. And this is the diaphragm. And you can see the diaphragm right here, outlined here. And you can see it fits inside the rib cage. It's actually attached to the spine, to the lumbar spine. It's attached all the way around what we call the costal arch, and all the way underneath the bottom of your sternum, called the xiphoid process. There is nothing like it in the body. A couple weeks ago, I saw a student for a first lesson, and she had terrible asthma, and that's why she came to me. She was having terrible problems breathing, and came in and said, I can't breathe, and she really was one. The whole time that we were working on table, she would just sort of heave-ho with the breath, and I'd encourage her not to. Let's try to let it be, silent, whatever. She was very, very sensitive, really remarkably open and very sensitive, and we had really a lovely lesson. And afterwards, she wrote me an email, and I just thought it would be nice to read it to start our work. And she said, after sitting with the experience you and I had on Wednesday, I've realized something. If I can stay in the present moment, then breath is natural. I am in harmony and connected to the universe. There is flow, chi, oneness. It is a great realization. So I think that this whole what she talks about, being present, is so essential for us. And being present, I think it's very difficult to work with breathing, because I think we tend to want to go in to try to feel for something or try to do the right thing, and you can't. It's pretty hard to feel the diaphragm. You can feel the effects of the diaphragm, but there are no what we call proprioceptive nerve endings in the diaphragm, so it's pretty hard to feel it. Right? So we can't try to take what we call a diaphragmatic breath, although we can encourage the right thing to happen. So we're going to start, and we're just going to do an opening meditation. During the day, we all tend to sit a great deal. And how we sit really can influence how freely we breathe. So as we sit on the chair this evening, I want to suggest that we sit what we would call comfortably erect. And comfortably erect is finding the bottom bones of the torso, the sits bones, and balancing on them. Now, we do have pillows here, so if anyone wants to put a pillow behind your back, just let me know and I'll bring one to you. So we want to be on those bottom bones of the torso. The chairs are really quite good. There's a little slant here, so again, you might want to put something right there, but to be comfortably erect. Now, why do I say that? Our tendency often is to do this, to sit behind our sits bones. Now, what happens when you do that is you're squishing your poor abdominal organs. And one thing I didn't mention to you, as we work through our exercises, more about the diaphragm will come up. But part of the function of the diaphragm is to be a massager. It massages the heart and the lungs on exhalation, and it massages the abdominal organs in inhalation. So when we find this comfortably erect position, we give space for the diaphragm to work. And maybe I can just remove this and show you here on the skeleton what that looks like. That you're really right there on the sits bones. What happens often is that, and it's unfortunately the skeleton isn't too flexible, but all of this gets compressed and you're literally sitting on your sacrum, your tailbone, rather than on your sits bones. And as I said, everything gets collapsed, and so we can't very well talk and we can't very well breathe with that. So it's something that you can do. Now, I'm not saying that it's trying to keep yourself upright at all costs. This is equally destructive, right? To try to have good posture, to hold. The body cannot maintain that much tension, and the first thing you will do will be collapsing. So comfortably erect. And so let's continue and let's do some work, lying down work. And lying down work is a lovely way to work with the diaphragm. And with the body, we do not have to oppose gravity, and we can just feel more and more relaxed. How I'd like to start is just a very simple exercise, and it is resting in what we call semi-supine. So what semi-supine is. Now, as you're resting, you might want to put a little pillow underneath your head that'll release the neck muscles. For demonstration, I won't do that, but definitely at home I would probably put something like that. So here we are. Here's our body. And what generally tends to happen is that we think we're a head here and a body underneath it. So we just want to have a little bit of an anatomy lesson that this is the torso, right? It's the pelvis all the way on up. The legs flow away and the torso moves upwards. Now you'll notice what my hand is doing. It is showing you this wonderful flow of up. I don't think we can do this enough. I think this has to be part of our vocabulary all the time, is that there is upward flow. The diaphragm moves up, it's pushing it against the lungs, it's sending out carbon dioxide. That's our exhalation. So we're going to work a little bit with the movement of the hand, tracing this upward flow. Notice that I like using the hand. It's again outside the body. We're giving ourselves direction. So the first way we're going to start is on how we draw up our legs. And semi-supine is resting with the knees bent and the foot on the floor or on the table, whatever you have. When you get into this position, what we don't want is sort of like this, by getting ourselves rushing. We want to be very mindful and allow each leg to be drawn up. And when you are that mindful and you draw up your leg, you might find that you just have to move your back out a little bit. So you just sort of lengthen it, because you will have started to create length in your body. And we want length, and we want flexibility, and we want freedom. And there are ways that we can promote that. And so resting a hand in your abdomen, I'd like you simply to start with a gentle hiss. Just to notice what you do. And what happened as you did that hiss? Could you feel any pressure in the abdomen, or did it stay relatively soft and free? How about what happened at the end of the hiss? Did you feel yourself grab for the new breath with the upper chest, or could you just wait? Well, that's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to give yourself the pause that refreshes at the end of that exhalation, at the end of that hiss, and just wait. And as you wait, I'd like you to have a hand on the rib cage and allow then the inhalation to come in through the nostrils so that you stimulate the rib cage. So we'll hiss, and I always keep my hand going when I'm doing that hiss. I want to encourage the sense of flow. I want to encourage that upward motion. I never want to get stuck. I don't want to get stuck in my head. I don't want to watch it. I just want to encourage the upward flow at the end of that. Before I perceive any tension in myself, I pause, I wait, my lips close, and I allow the air to come in through my nostrils. Sensing a widening in the rib cage. Pausing and permitting in. So that also can help us with breathing. So we just come here and just a little bit of freeing. Beautiful. Very, very free. And this is lovely, Phyllis. So that really, you're really quite connected. So let's start, and let's just do a warm-up of a hiss and see what happens. I keep my hand here on the lower abdomen, just to encourage the softening, the inner motion. I also have a hand on the ribs, encouraging movement in the beautiful. That's it. Lips close, air comes in. And ribs widen and breath moves up all the way up through the chest. I'm just going to come under Phyllis just to encourage a little bit of movement in these upper ribs. Again, our ribs are jointed to the spine, so we want to have this wonderful sense of looseness and freedom in the spine. The reason I stopped Phyllis from continuing is I could feel the least little bit of pressure in the abdomen. And I didn't want her to go past that point, because if she went past that point, she would have been bearing down on the diaphragm, and that would weaken it. Remember, you have to be so good to yourselves, and you have to say, this is about ease and relaxation, and it is never worth it to go past that point. You will build tremendous strength in your diaphragm. You will begin to extend your exhale, but you have to do it with this sense of ease. Let's do one more, Phyllis. We haven't yet worked with voice and breath, so let's start and just let's see if we can do a Z. Now, I shouldn't really say a Z. We're going to voice the hiss. And now we get into the little baby territory, that impulse, that desire to express, that fuel, that baby sound, that sense of need, of urgency. Again, this is one of the great ineffable mysteries, right? What is that? Where does it come from? I suggest, and what I experience in myself is this, that there is something here within that stimulates the flow. It is not zzz, it's not making sound at all costs, it's zzz. But we don't worry about that. We do whatever we do. So let's try, Phyllis. Enough. And air comes in. Now there's beautiful. Now that I could really feel her rib cage swing open. There's also something that I have to bring up, and that is we never need to take a breath in order to do something. It's something that is part of us, right? We all think, I have to take a big breath in order to expel it, in order to do something, but there's no need, right? The intention is enough. We know what it is we want, right? And as we go to do it, the body just breathes us. We never need to tank up to do it. It just doesn't work that way. And we're really not breathing when we do that. We really are not. If anything, we're taking a tiny little bit of breath up in here. And as you know, we were talking earlier before the class, that the lungs are in the shape of pyramids. They're much bigger at the bottom than they are to the top. So if we try to take a deep, deep breath, we will be doing some variation of this, which is a tiny little bit of air coming into the body, and mostly just tension, physical tension. It's sort of a big deception, isn't it? We think we're doing something, and we're really not. So we're just here, and we open, right? We're just opening, and then very good. And breath comes in. Oh, that's great, Phyllis. Great. So again, just from those two little ones that you did, you start to really free beautifully. Now, the next text that I'd like to work with is Pied Beauty. It's a Hopkins poem, and the reason I've chosen this is that the beauty of the words, the tastiness of the words, and the quality of flow. Now, this is not to be interpreted. You're not trying to act it. You're simply allowing words to arise up in your mouth. Glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as a brindled cow, for rose moles all in stipple upon trout that swim, fresh fire coal, chestnut falls, finch's wings, landscape plotted and pieced, fold, fallow, and plow, and all trades, their gear and tackle and trim. All things counter, original, spare, strange, whatever is fickle, freckled, who knows how, with swift, slow, sweet, sour, a dazzle dim, he fathers forth whose beauty is past change. Praise him. Now for me, the entire time, I feel as though I am surrounded by air.
Surrounded
by air.
By air.
I feel as though I am surrounded by air. So I'm not doing glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as a brindled cow, for Rosmo, glory be to God for dappled things. And you saw right there, I didn't even take a breath before I started. It's just there. We are always being breathed. Glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as a brindled cow, for rose moles all in stipple upon trout that swim, fresh fire coals, chestnut falls, finch's wings. You see, I can take as much time as I want. And it's something in me starts to tell me, go. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. So I know we'll be doing it as a group, but let's just try it. We're surrounded by the air. Glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as a brindled cow, for rose moles all in stipple upon trout that swim, fresh fire coal, chestnut falls, finch's wings, landscapes plotted and pieced, fold, fallow, and plow, and all trades, their gear and tackle and trim. All things counter, original, spare, strange, whatever is fickle, freckled, who knows how, with swift, slow, sweet, sour, a dazzle dim, he fathers forth whose beauty is past change. Praise him. Beautiful, beautiful. So it's never about voice. It is never about even, and you can do this with reading an article from the newspaper, you can do all sorts of practice with voice so that you're tasting and you get to the point as you work with breath that you feel as though you're drinking in something. That's the only way I can describe it to you. It really comes from the great singing technique of bel canto. You know, you drink in the music, you drink in the air. Glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as a brindled cow, for rose moles all in stipple upon trout that swim, fresh fire coals, chestnut falls, finch's wings, landscapes plotted and pieced, fold, fallow, and plow. So it's never precious, right? It's just about this continual sense of flow.